spinning and the local conversation continues. Now, Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
And a very good Monday evening to you, Jacksonville. It is Hacker After Dark, 1010XL and 92.5 FM with Dylan Denmark. The Hacker Ryan Green with you. Glad you are with us, as we got a lot to get into. There is a lot going on in the sports world. The Super Bowl is set. We have an AFC champion. We have an NFC champion. We have controversy. And we got a heck of a storyline going into Super Bowl 57. From Andy Reid, his former team, against his current team, to the Kelce brothers, Jason for Philadelphia, Travis for Kansas City. We got a lot to get into. We got a schedule for Florida State that was released tonight, a football schedule that we'll go over. We got a Pro Bowler now for the Jacksonville Jaguars, as Jamal Agnew officially named to the, what do they call it? The reinvented Pro Bowl games. So Jamal Agnew now will be able to play dodgeball and some flag football action and things along those lines with the reinvented Pro Bowl games. The Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. It is Senior Bowl week, which really kicks off draft time in the National Football League. And we also have some news about the Jacksonville Jaguars and the rest of the NFL. So we got a lot to do. We're with you till 10 o'clock. We're glad you're with us. Here's what the guest lineup looks like coming up in less than 25 minutes. Monday Night Coaching with Campo. My man Dave Campo, former head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. We'll talk NFC Championship. We'll talk AFC Championship. We'll talk a little Jaguars as well with Dave Campo coming up in about 20 minutes. Coming up at 9 o'clock, let's go to Charlotte, North Carolina. Mike Kay of the Charlotte Observer, formerly here at First Coast News in Jacksonville, also has covered the Philadelphia Eagles for NJ.com. I want to talk to Mike about a couple of things. First off, Frank Reich, a guy we're very familiar with here in Jacksonville, the brand new head coach of the Carolina Panthers. What does that mean for Carolina moving forward? A couple of former Jaguars and C.J. Henderson and Laviska Shenault on that team as well. What does that mean for them moving forward? Mike also covered Philadelphia for many years, so we'll get his take on Jalen Hurts and the Eagles winning the NFC title yesterday. And at the bottom of the 9 o'clock hour, Demetrius Harvey of the Florida Times-Union, as we'll take a look ahead to the Jaguar offseason, now 6 weeks from tonight until the start of NFL free agency, Monday, March the 13th. So we got a lot to do. We're glad you're with us. How about this to kick it off? Are you kidding me? I'm in a good mood. I got a fresh head shave earlier today. Very excited about that. The hair was getting long. Had to take care of it, so I feel good. I feel refreshed. And I have in my hands a pair of tickets for you to go see the Florida Gator basketball team. Is it Wednesday night, Denmark, February 1st?
February 1st, 7 o'clock. Volunteers.
Tennessee, a top 10 opponent for Florida. Certainly a very good Tennessee team coming into Gainesville. If you want to go see Florida and Tennessee men's hoops down in Gainesville, simply be caller number 4 right now at 641-1010, and Dylan Denmark will hook you up with a pair of tickets to Tennessee and Florida on Wednesday night down in Gainesville. With that, we always open up the show with a big deal of the night, and Dylan Denmark. Let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal? What is the big deal?
No big deal. It is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
We have a Super Bowl matchup that is set. First in the NFC. Boy, I'll tell you, I was all fired up. I was settled in to watch San Francisco, Philadelphia, clearly the two best teams in the National Football Conference, really since about Halloween or so. You could argue Philadelphia has been the best all year, but San Francisco was, 12-1 since the Christian McCaffrey trade, with McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. And then, unfortunately, very early in the game, Brock Purdy goes down with an injury. Brock Purdy was the third 49er quarterback to go down with an injury. That's almost unprecedented. They lost Trey Lance. They lost Jimmy Garoppolo. Yesterday, they lost Brock Purdy. Josh Johnson came in the game. Now, let me tell you about Josh Johnson. 15 or so years of professional football, 13 teams. Here's all you need to know about Josh Johnson. That guy played against Jacksonville University back when he was at the University of San Diego, and his coach was Jim Harbaugh. That's how long Josh Johnson has been playing in the National Football League, as he played against JU and head coach Kerwin Bell. So Josh Johnson has been around for a little while. Obviously, it did not work out for Josh Johnson. They lose the game. Brock Purdy has to come back in after Johnson was in concussion protocol. Purdy couldn't throw the ball downfield. Today we find out why. He has a tear of his UCL joint. They're hoping he's back in 6 months and won't require Tommy John surgery. So, I mean, that is a devastating injury for Brock Purdy. And it goes to show you, you can have all the talent in the world. You can have your Deebo Samuel, your Brandon Ayuk's, your Christian McCaffrey's, your George Kittles. You can have them all. You got to have a functional quarterback, man. And the Niners could not do anything yesterday. I do think, and I don't think it would have mattered necessarily yesterday, but I do think you need to take a look at the emergency quarterback. You need to take a look at being able to have 3 quarterbacks, a third emergency guy that doesn't count necessarily against your 45-man roster. Perhaps that would have helped San Francisco yesterday, but give credit to Philadelphia. They played a wounded team, but they took advantage of the situation, completely dominating the Giants a week prior and completely dominating San Francisco. So Philadelphia, head coach Nick Sirianni, quarterback Jalen Hurts, and one of the best defensive fronts you'll ever see. What is it, 78 sacks for that Philadelphia defense in 19 games this year? 17 in the regular season and 2 in the postseason. Absolutely dominating. They're your champions of the NFC. They play the Kansas City Chiefs. And I don't know about you, but watching that game yesterday just made me feel kind of dirty a little bit. Felt some anguish when the game kicked off, because that could have very easily been Jacksonville. Christian Kirk makes that catch. Foye Oluokun intercepts that pass. A couple of things go the Jaguars' way. Could have very easily been Jacksonville. Alas, it wasn't. It was Kansas City, it was Cincinnati, and it was everything it was built up to be. And I didn't really even think Burrow nor Mahomes played that good a game. The talent around them was just nothing short of outstanding. I mean, Cincinnati played a phenomenal game. Kansas City's defense, Frank Clark and Chris Jones, just manhandled the Bengal O-line. I know the Bengals had some injuries on that offensive line, but good grief, man. You know, people talk about Aaron Donald being the best defensive lineman in football. I'm not so sure anymore. Chris Jones is a ferocious monster. And to think that guy could have very easily been nothing more than the guy whose pants fell down running the 40 at the NFL Combine. Remember that? He's the guy who's, I don't know how graphic I want to get here, but just Google Chris Jones in the Combine. He ran
your role and shut your mouth.
Yeah, he ran the 40, and Chris Jones, had some exposure problems on live TV running the Combine, but he has recovered from that, and he has turned into maybe the best defensive lineman in football. And to that point, Travis Kelce yesterday after the game, Patrick Mahomes yesterday after the game, Chris Jones, Frank Clark, even Patrick Mahomes' family yesterday after the game made reference to Burrowhead, made reference to the cigars that Joe Burrow smokes, made reference to obviously the Cincinnati mayor, where Travis Kelce pulls a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, tells him to know his role and shut his mouth, called him a jabroni.
You jabroni!
Which I loved, by the way. Don't tell me bulletin board material doesn't matter. Bulletin board material does matter. That game's not over 5 minutes, the Chiefs are talking about it. They were fired up to have an opportunity against Joe Burrow, against Cincinnati. And look, Cincinnati, they talked. Give them that. They talked, but they did not close the deal. Kansas City did. The big play everybody's talking about, Joseph Asai, the personal foul, late hit out of bounds, a couple of things here. Number one, it was a personal foul. You can't do what he did. Number two, I felt horrible for that kid. Horrible. He played his tail off, man. He absolutely played his tail off. The game of football is awesome. The game of football is unbelievable. But it can also be a very cruel game in a night like last night for Joseph Asai. Because he arguably was the best Cincinnati pass rusher last night. He was in the backfield. He was making plays. For a 22-year-old, he was making it happen in the AFC Championship game. And unfortunately, for clearly the next 7 months, he's going to be known for one play. And it's hitting Patrick Mahomes out of bounds. And, you know, we think of these football players as gladiators, right? You think of them as warriors and everything they do to take the football field of battle, if you will, every Sunday. But last night we saw the human side of players. Joseph Asai, a 22-year-old, mind you, he's just barely a man. I mean, he was in college, 365 days ago, just sobbing on the sideline. And it's just like, man, that's the human element. That's the part that we rarely see. And I got to tell you this, too. B.J. Hill is an interior defensive lineman for the Cincinnati Bengals. Kudos to him. That guy could play on my team any day of the week. Because I don't know if you guys saw this in the post-game locker room as all the Cincinnati media is just gathered around 22-year-old Joseph Asai, who probably hasn't had, 5 media members in front of him the entire year. Last night he had 50 in that locker room. And B.J. Hill, a veteran, is standing right there with him, shoulder to shoulder, telling media members to back off. Those are clown questions. What are you doing? And that's the sign of an unbelievable teammate, man. The sign of an unbelievable teammate. So Joseph Asai is a good football player. Hopefully this is not what he's known for, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. Unfortunately, it is what he's known for right now. And give Kansas City credit because that one play did not decide the game. There were many things that decided that game. Patrick Mahomes' touchdown pass to Marquez Valdes-Scantling was, a magician. He's a sorcerer. I don't know how else to explain it. Mahomes' touchdown pass to Travis Kelce, same things. Patrick Mahomes is just unbelievable. And if you want to look at any proof of that, in case you needed more proof of that, most postseason wins 5 years into their career, I believe he surpassed Joe Montana last night. I think the number is now 10 postseason victories in the first 5 years of his career. Montana had 9. Brady, I think, is the leader at 14. So Mahomes is on that type of pace with a Tom Brady. But Mahomes and Burrow, we're going to see that rivalry for a while. And they were talking about that last night, how this is going to be maybe the next Manning and Brady. I don't think so. All right? Not to mention the fact, look, we got a guy here in Trevor Lawrence, but you got a guy in Los Angeles and Justin Herbert. You still got a guy in Buffalo and Josh Allen. You got ridiculous quarterbacks. Can Deshaun Watson find his old form in Cleveland? What's going to happen with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore? So the bottom line is, and by the way, Tua was on pace to be in that conversation, and we find out on Friday, a month after the Dolphins stopped playing him, he's still in concussion protocol, which is certainly a scary thing as of Friday. But the quarterbacks in the AFC are absolutely ridiculous. We know all the names. We know that none of them are over 27 years of age. Mahomes is the elder statesman at 27. And I agree, Mahomes and Burrow is going to be good, but I don't think it's going to be Manning Brady-esque, at least in the postseason. Because with Herbert and Lawrence and Allen and Watson and Jackson, there's just too many good quarterbacks that are going to be pressing them year in and year out. But it is Philadelphia. It is Kansas City. We will certainly talk more about that game the remainder of this week And as we get into next week with Super Bowl 57 scheduled to take place 13 nights from tonight. As I mentioned, the Jaguars have a Pro Bowler. Congratulations to Jamal Agnew for getting named to the Pro Bowl. The Jaguars had a legit argument to have a bunch of guys considered. There's not a better punter in the AFC than Logan Cook. So why he's not in the Pro Bowl, I don't know, but that's neither here nor there. Jamal Agnew is in. Trevor Lawrence, there was certainly an argument that he should have gotten some consideration. There was probably an argument for Travis Etienne. There was probably an argument for Christian Kirk. There was definitely an argument for Foye Oluokun to get in. But at least they got one. And Jamal Agnew officially named today to the Pro Bowl. Dumervay, the wide receiver in Baltimore, the kick returner, had to pull out. So Jamal Agnew is in. And congrats to Jamal Agnew. Now he will represent the Jaguars in the Pro Bowl this upcoming weekend. As I said, the Senior Bowl festivities are underway in Mobile, Alabama. I was thinking about this on the drive in. Isn't it interesting when you're not picking in the top 5? We're going to talk Senior Bowl, and we're going to, maybe have a couple of guys on from Mobile this week, and I'm certainly going to keep track of everything going on. But wasn't the Senior Bowl like the end-all, be-all here in Jacksonville for a while? I know back when I was on prime time, we would go out there and we would do week-long live broadcasts because that's what happens when you pick in the top 5, right? You want to go out there and you want to look at everybody. And we said at the time, do they even know about the Senior Bowl in Foxborough? Do they even know about the Senior Bowl in Pittsburgh? It's probably not as big a deal to teams like that as it was to us. And now all of a sudden, after a divisional playoff run, the Senior Bowl kind of sneaks up on you a little bit. It's this upcoming weekend. Weigh-ins are tomorrow. So here we are as the offseason really gets underway out there in Mobile, and we'll have updates coming up throughout the week here on Hacker After Dark. So much more on the NFC and AFC championship games, more on the Jaguars. We will touch upon some college ball as well. There's an offensive coordinator out in Coral Gables. Josh Gaddis shown the door late last week. Georgia Bulldog offensive coordinator Todd Monken reportedly in play for the Tampa Bay offensive coordinator job in the National Football League. We also know Jim Bob Cooter, the Jaguar passing game coordinator, has also interviewed with the Buccaneers for that offensive coordinator spot. So we got a lot to get into, Jacksonville. We're glad you're with us on a Monday night edition of Hacker After Dark with Dylan Denmark, the Hacker, Ryan Green with you. Coming up next, it is Monday Night Coaching with Campo. My man Dave Campo, former head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Let's talk NFC Championship. Let's talk AFC Championship. And let's talk a little Jaguars as well with Dave Campo. He's next on Hacker After Dark here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Everything's going according to plan.
We're currently formulating a plan B.
1010XL.
Although technically it's a plan C.
It's all part of the plan.
Chris, this needs to go to Parkville by 3.
Joy to the holiday packages that keep coming at Jimenez Couriers.
It's coming your way, but the drop-off location is changing.
She needs delivery drivers with the gift of punctuality.
Anyone looking to pick up some overtime? Anyone?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
So I'm here with Danny Van Sickle, director of the Electrical Training Alliance. Danny, tell me about your program.
Hey, Rick, we're a 5-year electrical apprenticeship. Our students start out making over $30,000 a year and right now graduate making over $80,000 a year, including benefits. There is no tuition and no student debt. You just have to apply and get accepted.
Did you say no tuition and no student debt?
You heard that right, Rick. Once you're accepted into the program, your only costs are the books and the course fees, around $700 a year.
Wow, that sounds like an amazing opportunity. How can I learn more?
Just go to etajax.org.
Apply by May 18th.
Men suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE, regardless of age or past medical history, you'll see instant results on your first visit at Prime Men's Medical Center. And for unlimited time, your consultation and first treatment are totally free. Call now 904-664-8217.
Prosser here for Lifetime Enclosures and Lifetime Flooring. It's getting chilly outside, but you can enjoy the outside inside with a new glass lanai from Lifetime Enclosures, or look ahead and get that backyard ready for spring with a new screened-in enclosure. Maximize the space you have and make it great with Lifetime Enclosures and Lifetime Flooring. They truly are the best in the business. Give them a call today. Lifetime Enclosures and Lifetime Flooring. Showroom just off Phillips Highway. Tell them Prosser sent you.
Get closer to nature.
Trying to get close to these bugs out here.
Jeff Lageman, Captain Kevin Favor, and Captain Kirk Walls. The Nimnicht Outdoor Show. Presented by Duck Duck Rooter. Every Saturday morning from 7 to 10 on 1010XL.
I'm Sophia Monahan. One day, my sister and I will take over for my dad at Monahan Jewelers. Monahan's is your local family jeweler, and we're having our Valentine's sale now.
That's right, Sophia. Our Valentine's sale is up to 30% off on all GIA-certified diamonds and up to 40% off store-wide with interest-free financing on all purchases. Diamonds, gemstones, engagement rings. Support your local family jeweler now through Valentine's with huge savings on our entire inventory. Take it away, Sophie.
Monahan Jewelers at Alente Beach.
This is Hayes Carlion for Kingfish Pest Control, a local family-owned business that specializes in pest, termites, mosquito, and rodent prevention. I tell you what, when I got my new home, I had to put on my reporter's hat, find out who really is the best, and it turns out there's no competition. Kingfish provides exceptional service and treats me like a valued customer, not just an account. That's why I wholeheartedly recommend Kingfish Pest Control, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
To be our best selves, we need to take care of our whole self. That includes your spirit, mind, and your body. At the First Coast YMCA, our members find balance in spirit, mind, and body with unlimited group exercise classes, adult sports leagues, health coaching, and programs designed for chronic disease prevention. And if your resolution is to save money this month, we'll waive the join fee. Discover all the benefits of a Y membership and find your Y at fcymca.org.
Wholesale prices, premium service, Tire Outlet.
Captain Kevin Favor here, and this January, when you buy a set of 4 Kumho tires, you will get a free oil change and a holiday scratch-off with exclusive savings throughout 2023. Tire Outlet will install a new oil filter and refill up to 5 quarts of motor oil. Save now by shopping today at TireOutlet.com.
Wholesale prices, premium service, Tire Outlet.
Jacksonville has some junk, and J-Dog is removing it. They're here to do the dirty work. You don't want to remove and dispose of large furniture or appliances yourself? Call J-Dog. Here now, proudly serving you, removing junk from your home or business. They can even handle small demolition projects, and they're still donating local items to veterans in need. So let J-Dog do the dirty work for you. J-Dog Junk Removal. Veteran-owned and operated. JDog.com.
Coming through in the clutch. David Garrard for Clearwater Seamless Gutters. You all know Clearwater installed my sprinklers, but recently John Haney's Clearwater Gutter Division installed beautiful 6-inch seamless gutters for my home in Jacks Beach, and they work great.
Dave, that's awesome to hear. Now jump in. We're fixing to sing.
Clearwater Irrigation. We can't sing a lick, but we sure are good at sprinklers.
And drainage, too.
This 1010XL 92.5 FM hour is powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. Now, Campo's Coaching Corner on Hacker After Dark.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. Championship Sunday in the books. The Super Bowl is set. Let's talk to a man that knows all about that. He has 3 Super Bowl rings from his time with the Dallas Cowboys. That's, of course, our guy Dave Campo, former head coach there in Dallas, always kind enough to join us here on Hacker After Dark. Coach, how we doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I've enjoyed the weekend and having a chance to watch those playoff games. And to be honest with you, I think the Jaguars held their own against Kansas City.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Look, we got a lot to get into from the championship games. Got a couple Jaguar things to discuss as well. Let's begin first and foremost, Coach, with the AFC Championship game last night. Cincinnati, Kansas City. What a game. comes down to the wire, and everybody's talking about that play where Joseph Asai hits Patrick Mahomes out of bounds, 15-yard penalty, gets the Chiefs into field goal range, they win the game. That was a 22-year-old that had played his tail off, Coach, for the Bengals, and he was devastated yesterday. You could see him just sobbing on the sideline. It was almost hard to watch. I'm not sure why CBS kept showing that, to be honest. As a head coach in that position, what do you say to a young man like that?
Well, first of all, I was sitting there. Obviously, I was sitting there watching the game with my wife, and when the game was over, my wife made the comment, why is he still sitting on the bench and pouting and this and that? I said, Kay, you don't understand. That kid played his tail off, like you said, for the entire football game. He's an excellent player, and from what I understand, a really good young man. And he got caught up in the moment. And when you're going full speed, and he knew that if him making that run, that they had a chance for a possible, getting into field goal range, that he had a chance to make a first down. And he was trying everything he could to get there. And he just made a bad decision. And that's a shame. Although when it comes down to games in this NFL, I've said from day one, it comes down to 2 or 3, 4 or 5 plays. And, early in the season, the Jaguars were making those kind of mistakes. I don't get real upset with a guy that's playing full speed, but you just have to use some common sense in that situation. And obviously, he was just trying to do something to have a chance to win.
I thought his teammates were spectacular in the post-game locker room. I don't know if you saw it, Coach, but his teammates were basically standing next to him. B.J. Hill was standing next to him as the media is asking him questions, basically saying, that's a clown question, don't ask that, that's ridiculous. And, and the good questions, Asai answered. But I thought his teammates really stepped up for that kid last night in a very, very tough situation in the postgame.
Well, I think that's why they were there. The teams that get to the final 2 or 4, are team guys, especially on defense. And of course, I lived it for 46 years and was able to play in 3 Super Bowls and a national championship game. And the one thing that sticks out to me in all of those, with all those teams, is that there's a great camaraderie in the locker room. And I really don't think people talk all the time about all the firepower and all the things on offense, and especially on defense. You don't get to that point without playing pretty decent defense when you get into the playoffs. And a lot of that is defense is just emotion and love for one another and playing hard for each other. And I still think that's a huge part of the game, regardless of whether it's a professional athlete or a college athlete. Those guys play because they love the game. For the most part, every player is there because they love who they're playing with, and their teammates are really important to them.
Former head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, Dave Campo, here with us on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Coach, I thought it was interesting in the postgame as well. These guys are professionals, so we very rarely talk about bulletin board material when it comes to games like this. Yet in the postgame, Travis Kelce alluding to the Cincinnati mayor, Patrick Mahomes talking about Burrowhead, Frank Clark, Chris Jones talking about Burrowhead and how the Cincinnati Bengals had been talking that Joe Burrow, owns that stadium. It was obvious after the game that the Chiefs knew what was being said, and whether you call it motivation, whatever, it was probably something if Cincinnati had to do over again, they probably would have kept their mouth shut.
Well, I think that's true. I mean, even Burrow said they don't have any cigars, but they're going to enjoy the post game. So it's in the guys' minds. I don't necessarily think that it makes a difference necessarily in the final outcome of the game, but there's no question that those guys want to let it out after the game. And, that's kind of what you see there. I think it does, maybe give you a little bit of incentive to play just a step faster or whatever. It's a little different in the National Football League. I know this. we talked all the time about keeping your mouth shut before a ball game and let your pads do the talking. So I don't think that was smart on the mayor's part, and I don't think it was smart on some of the players' part with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Coach, over decades in your career, you've seen some unbelievable quarterback wide receiver combos. You worked with one every day in Dallas, and Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin. I got to tell you, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce is one of the best ever, and maybe when all's said and done, though, they might even rival, Brady and Gronk, 2 or 3 years down the road. Those guys are borderline unstoppable when they're on. And again, last night, Mahomes and Kelce are the reason the Chiefs won the game.
Well, there's no question that you get a guy that's, that they are on the same wavelength. And there was nothing to me more indicative. Well, a couple things. Number one, we were all upset with Kelce catching 14 last week. I don't know what the final was. How many did he catch?
Last night, I'd have to look, but I know he had some key ones, including that touchdown.
He had to have close to 10. I know that for sure. And that's what you're talking about. But the one that stuck out to me more than anything else was when he stepped up in the pocket and he made that throw to him for the touchdown. The guy was not open. And as soon as he saw him break the pocket, he slid back inside and he hit him with it. That one there, he threw almost before the guy made his final move. And that, to me, is an example of that chemistry that you get with the quarterbacks get with certain players. And, there's no question that shows up with Mahomes and Kelce.
Yeah, Kelce last night, 7 for 78 and a touchdown. That puts him at, 21 catches in 2 playoff games this year for Kansas City. So they're off to the Super Bowl. Andy Reid off to another Super Bowl, and he will play his former team as the Philadelphia Eagles take out San Francisco. Dave, let's talk about San Francisco first and foremost. The injury problems yesterday. I've never seen anything like it. They had already played 3 quarterbacks. Brock Purdy was the 3rd quarterback. He goes down, and you have to bring in Josh Johnson, who's been on 13 NFL teams over his 15-year career. Then he goes down, and Brock Purdy has to come back in and can't functionally really throw the ball because of his elbow. I think the NFL really needs to look at the 3rd emergency quarterback and putting that back in to not have that count against your 45-man roster. But that aside, have you ever been in a game or seen anything like that where San Francisco, due to injury, could basically do nothing on offense?
No, not really. Not with the quarterback position. You saw it a little bit in the AFC game with the receivers going down for Kansas City. That changes the whole dynamic. But when your quarterback goes down, that's a whole different thing. That guy's the guy. And, Josh Johnson had some experience being with all those teams. But the problem is he doesn't get enough reps during the course of the week, especially with a quarterback like Brock Purdy, who's going into his first, big-time championship game in the NFL. He was going to take every single rep he could to make sure they had a chance to win. And once Josh Johnson went down, that playbook went to about 12 plays, all running plays. And, that was a shame because I think that would have been a decent football game, although I think Philadelphia is the better team. I think that would have been a decent ball game had he not gone down. I think San Francisco has enough firepower that they could have made it a game.
Coach, I just have to ask you, after watching that yesterday, why could nobody stop the Philadelphia quarterback sneak?
You got me. It's just the whole thing is changed since they put in the rule that you could push a guy. Back in the day when I was coaching, you couldn't push the pile. And so, that just made a big difference because when they run a quarterback sneak, the officials don't blow the whistle immediately. And so that gives a chance for the pile to get moving. And that's really what happens. All the defense, there's only so many things you can do defensively. And that's to load up the gaps and blow the gaps and try to get lower than the opponent and have one guy up for the jump but the push is what makes the difference in the quarterback sneak today.
Couple of more for former Dallas Cowboy head coach Dave Campo. He's always with us here on Hacker After Dark on 1010XL and 92.5 FM. Coach, we'll preview the game next week. We're still 13 days away, but an early thought. Kansas City went through Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow. Philadelphia went through Daniel Jones, Brock Purdy, and Josh Johnson. Philadelphia 2 blowout wins. Kansas City 2 hard-fought competitive games. I know a lot of people love Philadelphia because of their dominance they've shown. I got to tell you, this Kansas City team is certainly more battle-tested, and I'm an early lean to Kansas City right now.
Yeah, I would say that the difference between the two teams is, in my opinion, and again, I haven't studied those guys, but just watching them from afar, I saw Philadelphia during the year and I saw Kansas City during the year. And then, of course, watching them yesterday, I think Philadelphia has the deeper roster and is more balanced. And when I say that, I think Philadelphia gets a lot of mileage out of their physicality and their toughness and their mentality. And, to be honest with you, when you look over the course of time, the NFC has been more of a power league as opposed to the AFC, which has always been more finesse and firepower. So I think that's what you're seeing in the ball game this weekend or next weekend. The problem is that you don't know how Kansas City's receivers are going to come out after the injuries that they had yesterday. So I really think that Philadelphia probably has a little bit of the edge because of their balance and their toughness. And I think the quarterback is, even though he's a little banged up, is executing at an MVP level. And, it's going to be a good game. Every game in the playoffs comes down, in my opinion, to who's got the ball last and some of those type of things most of the time. I'm looking forward to a great Super Bowl, and I'm hopeful that Kansas City receivers come back and that Mahomes has an extra week to get ready, which is big. That's why they go 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, to give the best players a chance to get on the field. And I'm looking forward to a really good Super Bowl game.
Final moments here with our head coach, Dave Campo. Coach, a couple of Jaguar tidbits as we wrap up. Wide receiver coach Chris Jackson has left to take a job at the University of Texas. Nothing against Chris Jackson, but I don't really want to talk about him as much as I want to talk about the process. You being a former head coach, you had to deal with this on a yearly basis. Doug Peterson, does he have a Rolodex of potential wide receiver coaches that he could call, relationships from the past? How does it work to replace an assistant coach like that?
Well, first of all, that's a new thing. In the old days, nobody went from the NFL to college because of the pay scale. Now things have changed to where the colleges are just as, financially rewarding as the NFL is. So, I don't blame Chris, like you said, for making a move. Now, there's no question that Doug's got guys in mind, and he's had guys in mind for every position. And that is a Rolodex. I mean, you've got some guys that you've been around before. There were probably some guys that he kind of targeted along with Chris Jackson because he had no way of knowing necessarily that Chris Jackson would join him in the first place. So there are guys out there that he's kind of targeted. Now, the problem that you have in the National Football League that you don't have in college is that contracts make a difference in who you can get and who you can't get. So you can't always get exactly who you want. So he's going to be looking at the dynamics of the room, who's out there, the guys that he has knowledge of, that he's really respects and likes and thinks he will fit in with everybody. And I go with the Jimmy Johnson rule that the ability to, fit with the coaching staff and the culture and all that is almost more important than the ability to just the X's and O's and the technique coaching. So he's going to have some guys that he thinks fit in, and that's who he's going to go with. I don't think he's going to just go out there and arbitrarily try to find the best coach in pro football. I think he'll go with somebody that he's familiar with and knows that he will fit in.
And, Coach, final question, something similar along those lines. Passing game coordinator Jim Bob Cooter has interviewed in Tampa Bay for their open offensive coordinator spot. We don't know what the outcome of that's going to be yet. But is that the same process, knowing you've had a guy interview for another position? Are you accumulating guys to get on the phone immediately in case Jim Bob Cooter does ultimately leave?
Absolutely. And I think that's what you're hopeful of as a head coach is that you do well enough that people want your assistance. And now you got to make a decision whether or not you can match that assistant financially or whatever the situation is. And the one thing you can do in the NFL is to move from one position to another, being under contract as long as it's an upgrade. And I would say the upgrade from passing game coordinator to offensive coordinator would be one that he can make that move. He will have guys that he's looked at that he feels comfortable with. Whether or not he can get them or not, that's going to be the question as they go forward. And obviously this staff he's put together is a good staff. He's going to have this problem right along as long as they keep winning.
And again, we'll see what happens with Jim Bob Cooter, but he did interview in Tampa last week. Our head coach here on Hacker After Dark is Dave Campo, former head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Coach, thank you for the time. Next week, we will preview Super Bowl 57. Again, there's not a better guy to talk to. You got 3 rings on your finger from your time in Dallas. Coach, we'll do that a week from tonight. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk soon.
You got it, Hack. Enjoy it, and have a good week, and we'll talk to you next week.
There you go, our head coach, Dave Campo, here on Hacker After Dark. And, yeah, it's a pretty good source when it comes to the Super Bowl. That guy, as an assistant coach in Dallas, has not 1, not 2, but 3 Super Bowl rings. And I've seen them at his man cave there. It's very impressive to see what Dave Campo did during his coaching career in the National Football League. We have a schedule for Florida State. We knew who they were playing. Now we know when they are playing them. Some interesting things about the schedule released tonight by the Noles. Clemson, a lot earlier than it has been in years past. Some tough road games for Florida State as well. Let's talk Florida State 2023 football schedule. That's next. Hacker After Dark on a Monday night in Jacksonville, Florida, and we are glad you are with us.
1010XL puts the ball in play-by-play.
Kick on the way!
Impeccable today.
From way downtown. That ball's ripped.
For play-by-play, it's 1010XL.
Concrete floors don't have to be ugly and hard to clean. Whether it's a garage with cracks, tire marks, and failed epoxy, or any concrete surface that isn't beautiful and maintenance-free, Shark Coatings will transform it. Our coating and warranty are stronger, more durable, and longer lasting than any other on the market. And because Shark Coatings is 100% UV stable for life, it's perfect for any concrete surface outside as well. Shark Coatings will let you reclaim those wasted hours spent pressure washing your driveway, patios, and walkways. Hit us up on social media or call 904-519-5055 to set up your free estimate today.
Okay, for this Cannons of Jacksonville commercial, we need an idea to really come out with a bang.
Like having a guy shot out of a cannon.
Nah, too messy. In fact, Cannons is known for all your towing needs.
So like my car won't start.
No. Towing products. Cannons does custom welding fabrication and installation of trailer hitches, goosenecks, tow bars, truck racks.
So you might say Cannons is my best shot at finding that inventory in stock?
Boom. You said it.
Visit cannonsofjacks.com.
It's your go-to for golf talk. The Edwin Watts Golf Hour.
All we need to do is develop the rest of your game. Then you'll be unstoppable, son.
Get local updates, gear reviews, and all things golf talk. Saturday mornings at 10 on 1010XL.
Think mortgage rates are still super high? Think again. Rates have plummeted to 5-month lows. Hey, Prosser here. Call my friends at Loan Pronto now to see how low rates are. It may be time to do that refinancing you've been putting off, or time to get back to house hunting. If you're like a lot of people, you have way too much credit card debt right now, and you're getting fleeced with 20+% interest charges every month. Or maybe your current home rate is over 6%. Listen, you can get a quick, easy refi at Loan Pronto, wipe out all those cards, close in about 14 days, and cut your overall expenses by $500 a month or more. Right now, Loan Pronto is doing refis with APRs in the 4s. Call now to take advantage of this big rate drop. Get those credit cards to zero, start that home improvement project, or get out of that 7% loan you were forced into last year. Call Loan Pronto, 904-999-1508. That's 904-999-1508. Or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Hello, all you Jacksonville sports fans. Don here from Taco Lou. If you're in the mood for some great tacos, cold Dos Equis, and maybe even a sip of some fine tequila, then the Lou is calling your name. Come out to Jack's Beach and experience what many have dubbed the #1 taco in the 904. There are plenty of great taco joints in town, and we're proud to have been around for this long, and we have only you, the fine people of Jacksonville, to thank for helping us grow and become who we are today. Cheers to you, Jacksonville, and thank you from the Lou crew. Taco Lou in Jacksonville Beach.
This date in sports history is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On January 30th, 1994, in Super Bowl 28, the Cowboys beat the Bills 30-13. Emmitt Smith wins MVP, rushing for 132 yards and 2 touchdowns.
The IRS has just received $80 billion in funding to hire 86,000 IRS agents. If you owe the IRS, now is the time to take action before the IRS comes after you or your business. There's no time to waste. Call J. David Tax Law for a no-cost consultation at 904-507-4777. That's 904-507-4777. Or visit jdavidtaxlaw.com. Peace of mind is only a click or phone call away.
Some listeners like you are experiencing firsthand the amazing pain relief from QC Kinetics, even calling your favorite radio host to share the good news.
QC Kinetics. I had my right ankle worked on 4 months ago. Awesome.
That's great,
look
Mick.
at that,
man. Yes, they worked on my elbow.
Every day, the QC Kinetics medical professionals treat patients like Mick with the latest regenerative therapies using natural biologics concentrated right at the hurting joint. No surgery, no downtime.
I'm telling you, QC Kinetics is the way to go if you don't want to go under the knife and suffer for 3 months.
Yep.
It was very easy, as you well know, with your elbow.
I'm telling you.
You guys are awesome.
Mick, appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for the phone call. Really appreciate it. I'm so glad that QC Kinetics did some wonders for you. I mean, regenerative medicine, man, that's the thing these days. Living proof right there.
Call QC Kinetics now for your consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 904-274-5522. That's 904-274-5522. 904-274-5522.
Instant Keys has a new location off Edgewood and 12th Street. Same honest people, same professional locksmith service for lost, stolen, or broken keys. Now, what about today's high-tech automotive keys? Instant Keys can service nearly every foreign and domestic vehicle, including most luxury models. At Instant Keys, you get dealership-level service at a fraction of the time and cost. Stop by the new location, Edgewood and 12th Street, or call 722-1111. Instant Keys.
Beaches Jewelry and Pawn is ready to help. If you need extra cash or a quick loan, Beaches Jewelry and Pawn has cash in hand. They also love to buy items of value. They need gold, silver coins, and flatware, jewelry, guitars, and of course, guns.
This 1010XL 92.5 FM hour is powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733.
Until this very moment, where apparently I am a cocky and an arrogant Florida State fan, which I just, quite frankly, found pretty amusing.
Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Oh, we got a football schedule tonight. We have got a football schedule, ladies and gentlemen, for the 2023 Florida State Seminoles. A team that should be pretty good, right? And a lot of their guys have come back, including quarterback Jordan Travis. Mike Norvell, again, has just cleaned up in the transfer portal. One of the best transfer portal classes in the country. There are going to be a lot of expectations. There are going to be a lot of things expected of Florida State in 2023. Here is the way it looks. By the way, the spring game will kick it off Saturday, April the 15th. The Garnet and Gold game, 4 o'clock. They're at Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee. Florida State season will kick off Sunday night, September 3rd, same as last year, the Sunday of Labor Day weekend, this time in Orlando against LSU. That was a 2-game series last year in New Orleans, this year in Orlando, and I got to tell you, I'm not sure if you're going to find a better game in the country. Both Florida State and LSU, probably preseason top 15, maybe both preseason top 10. That is going to be a heck of a scene in Orlando. Can Florida State beat LSU 2 years in a row? We know how the last year ended with an amazing ending with that missed extra point there to end the game. So LSU on September 3rd. Saturday, September 9th, the home opener for Florida State as they welcome in Southern Miss, the Golden Eagles, into Tallahassee. The Golden Eagles won there in 1989, I believe, with a guy named Brett Favre. I don't expect that to happen in 2023. Florida State then goes back on the road Saturday, September 16th at Boston College. That shouldn't be a problem. Boston College was terrible last year. I don't really expect Florida State to have an issue there. But here's where the schedule is different than it has been in years past. Saturday, September 23rd, week 4 at Clemson. That is massively moved up compared to where it's been in years past. So Florida State's first 4, LSU and Orlando, home to Southern Miss, at Boston College, at Clemson. That's a tough start for the Noles. They then have a bye week on Saturday, September 30th. In the month of October, they have 3 consecutive home games in Tallahassee. On October 7th, they're home to Virginia Tech. On October 14th, they're home to Syracuse. And on October 21st, they are home to the Duke Blue Devils. Dare I say Duke is probably the toughest of those 3. Again, Vatek, Syracuse, and Duke, all in Tallahassee, October 7th, 14th, and 21st. Saturday, October 28th, Florida State travels to Wake Forest. It'll be a very different Wake Forest team than what we've seen in years past, as they have lost a lot of players to the portal and to graduation. Saturday, November 4th, Florida State goes to Pitt to play the Pitt Panthers. Saturday, November 11th, Florida State hosts Miami. The final home game comes on November the 18th against North Alabama, and the regular season concludes on a Saturday this year. Saturday, November 25th, Florida State travels to the Swamp to play Florida. Denmark, here are my early impressions from Florida State's schedule. I want yours as well. It's interesting Clemson has moved up, so you got LSU and you travel to Clemson in the first 4 games. After the bye week on September 30th, I don't think they have a problem with Virginia Tech. I don't think they have a problem with Syracuse. Duke, Duke's a good team. Duke's good, is very well coached. But come on, it's Duke in Tallahassee. Florida State should win that game. At Wake, at Pitt, I think Pitt might be tough. And then it's Miami, North Alabama, and Florida. So a very manageable schedule, Denmark, if they can get through those first 4. If they get 3-1 in the first 4, Florida State may be a legitimate contender for a playoff conversation to me.
Yeah, I see 10-2. I mean, tough start. I guess I'd say a tough end, but I mean the end is just a little harder than the middle of the schedule. I mean, it is the ACC. The FSU should be the favorite. I don't know what the odds are, but FSU and Clemson should be the 2 top teams in the ACC. And I mean, the FSU LSU game, that's probably the hardest game on their schedule, and it's week 1. So.
Well, and you look at it, their toughest games are away from Tallahassee. They play LSU in Orlando. They have to travel to Clemson. They have to travel to Pitt. And they have to travel to Florida. The home schedule, look, nothing against the season ticket holders, you folks that bleed garnet and gold that travel over to Tallahassee, but yuck. Your home games next year, Southern Miss, Virginia Tech, Syracuse, Duke, Miami, and North Alabama. Good grief. Aside from Miami, and when Duke is the second best game on your home schedule, that's not a very good home schedule. So Florida State's going to have to be road warriors next year. But again, with Jordan Travis returning, guy like Jared Verse, who would have been a first-round pick, he's coming back, there will certainly be a lot of expectations on the Noles here in 2023, and with good reason. They were a 10-win team last year at 10-3. I expect more of the same coming up this season. All right, we'll go to Charlotte, North Carolina, coming up in just a bit. Mike Kay, formerly of First Coast News here in Jacksonville, now with the Charlotte Observer. I want to talk about Frank Reich to Carolina. I want to talk about Laviska Shenault, C.J. Henderson, how they're both faring now, still in Carolina. And I also want to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles with Mike. He covered them for the last 4 years as they are now NFC champions once again. Before we get there, had an interesting situation today with my mother. I'm 39 years old, all right? I'm not going to tell you how old my mom is, but if I'm the youngest in the family and I'm 39, you know, you can probably do a little math on that and figure out roughly how old my mother is. And she is one of the sweetest ladies on planet Earth. Love her to death. Mom Hacker, she is the absolute best. But she's really not up to date with today's pop culture, or I guess 20 years ago's pop culture. So I'm over there today with my mom. I was helping her assemble a tent, an indoor tent that we got for my son that he can play with when he goes to grandma's house, play in like forts and whatnot. And she's telling me about this show that she started watching, I guess on demand. I don't think she stays up late enough to watch it, but apparently it's on the Learning Channel. And she said, you know, I've been watching this show, but I did not know what the title of it meant. I had to Google it. And I said, all right, well, what was the title? My mom, she goes, yeah, it's this show called MILF Manor. And I did not have any idea what that was, so I had to Google it. And Ryan, that is unbelievably nasty. And I said, yeah, I mean, what do you say to your mother when she just finds out what that means 20 years after American Pie was released? I mean, come on, you know? I just probably turned bright red and started laughing hysterically. Yeah, so my mother had to Google what that meant, and she found out, and I get the sense she probably won't watch that show again.
Did she think it was a good show?
Yeah, she said she enjoyed it till she found out what the title was. And again, it's MILF Manor, and she did not know what that meant. So I guess you can Google that, and it comes up pretty quick, Denmark.
Yeah, it's essentially mother. I like to hang out with.
Yeah, people know what it means.
Well, I'm sure there's like probably about 15% of our audience listening right now that has no idea what it is. Maybe.
I would think that number might be high. I think our audience is kind of young. We're the hip show. Remember, we're the nighttime show. All right, a lot of folks in their 50s, 60s, and 70s probably aren't listening at 8:58 Eastern Standard Time.
Have you watched it yet?
Have I watched MILF Manor?
Yes.
No, MILF Manor has not come across my TV
now,
set.
Okay, here's a proclamation we can do. You know, girls get together for The Bachelor and all these movies on romance. Why don't, since football season's over, guys get together on Sunday night and they get to watch MILF Manor?
Now,
How about that?
You have apparently seen this program.
Yes.
What is the premise of MILF Manor?
So it's like 7 or 8 of these moms, and they are trying to find love on this Mexican island in Mexico.
Okay.
And they get set up with the other mom's sons. Yeah. So the moms are in age range from 40 to 60, and all their sons are in their 20s. And
wow,
it's a good show.
This is on the Learning Channel.
Yes, TLC. It's 90 Day Fiance, 600-pound life, 1,000-pound life, MILF Manor.
Wow. All right. So yeah, but I don't know if anybody's ever been in the situation where their mother was explaining to them what MILF meant. But I told her I didn't really need an explanation. I got it.
There's only one way to explain it.
Yeah, I was with her. I knew exactly what it was referring to. But I guess Denmark gives it a 2 thumbs up, seal of approval. So if you haven't checked out MILF Manor on TLC on Sunday nights, I guess Denmark would highly recommend that. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go here on Hacker After Dark. We are at halftime. As always, we are streaming for your viewing pleasure. On Twitter, at 1010XL on Twitter. You'll see the show there until 10 o'clock tonight. Likewise on YouTube. Just go to 1010XL on YouTube. You will see the show there until 10 o'clock this evening. With Dylan Denmark, the hacker Ryan Green with you. Let's go to Charlotte, North Carolina. Mike Kay of the Charlotte Observer. Let's talk Frank Reich. Let's talk Philadelphia Eagles. Let's talk NFL with our man Mike Kay up in Charlotte. Next on Hacker After Dark.
Warming up for the real thing.
Comedy, sir.
Comedy?
Dan Hicken and Jeff Prosser.
No, this is not comedy.
Start your mornings with a drill.
Comedy is fun. It's antics, hysterical type things.
On 1010XL.
Every day, we look for ways to improve our processes in order to deliver to you, our precious customer, the very best sales and service experience in the world. From our super facility to our amazing staff, everything we do is for you. So with hopes of improving your experience even more, we're announcing we'll be closing the store on Sundays, beginning the first of the year. We believe that well-rested team members will provide you with the world-class experience you deserve. Beaver Toyota and Beaver Chevrolet, we're going to wow you, just not on Sunday.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. Okay, easy now. You're teaching your kid how to parallel park. Ouch! Turns out he likes to do it by feel. Don't worry, eBay Motors has bumpers, taillights, trunk lids, license plate holders, 122 million parts. Pull up just a little bit. And headlights. They've got lots of headlights. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors. Let's ride.
Here's your 1010XL First Coast Community Calendar.
If you'd like to work for the Jumbo Shrimp, here's your chance. Attend their job fair Wednesday, February 1st at 121 Financial Ballpark. Learn more at jackshrimp.com.
The Tom Coughlin J Fund helps families battling childhood cancer, and there are ways you can help. Go to tcjfund.org.
Dreams Come True is the only local wish-granting organization giving dreams and special times to local children battling life-threatening illnesses. Find out how you can help at dreamscometrue.org.
If you know someone with cancer and no insurance, call the U.S. Uninsured Helpline at 800-234-1317.
Builders Care is looking for volunteers, and there are so many ways you can help. Find out how at builderscare.org.
If you're involved in a community event and you'd like us to help spread the word, find out how at 1010XL.com.
Roland, 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 we're all calling Roland. The toilet's overflowing, oh my.
When hairballs, grease, and goo just won't let that water through, you need Roland Reich Plumbing by your side. When you have got a leak and you just can't wait a week, call 260-7059. Roland Reich Plumbing.
The flagship station of the Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
What if we told you that you could easily stay up to 20 degrees cooler in the summer? Because with Armor Guard Exteriors, you can. We offer retractable Sonesta awnings that lead the industry in terms of customization, durability, and more. From entertaining friends to finding time alone outside, a retractable Sonesta awning will keep you cool and comfortable. To learn more, call Armor Guard Exteriors today at 904-906-8669.
Keep those New Year's resolutions on track and get to a healthier new you. Join Bailey's Health and Fitness now until the end of January and pay zero enrollment fees on any membership. Unlock access to Bailey's 16 area locations, 24/7 club access, the best selection of equipment and personal trainers, hundreds of group fitness classes like boxing, Zumba, spin, and so much more. Pay zero enrollment fees on any membership plan in January until the 31st. Visit baileysgym.com.
I'm Sophia Monahan. One day, my sister and I will take over for my dad at Monahan Jewelers. Monahan's is your local family jeweler, and we're having our Valentine's sale now.
That's right, Sophia. Our Valentine's sale is up to 30% off on all GIA-certified diamonds and up to 40% off store-wide with interest-free financing on all purchases. Diamonds, gemstones, engagement rings. Support your local family jeweler now through Valentine's with huge savings in our entire inventory. Take it away, Sophie.
Monahan Jewelers at Allende Beach.
Hey, Googans, Hicken here, and now that the kids are back out of the house and the decorations have been put away,
I can see it's definitely time to get my carpets and my sofas clean. That's where Zero Res comes in. Zero Res. They'll clean the carpets, the sofa, the chairs, area rugs, even tile and grout. Google Zero Res and see what your neighbors are saying about Zero Res with more than 5,000 five-star customer reviews. Right now, get 20% off carpet cleaning and 20% off upholstery cleaning. Zero Res, man. Spell it forwards or backwards. It's the right way to clean.
Royal Pest Services, a local company you can trust. Royal Pest is a certified installer of tap insulation, which stands for thermal, acoustic, and pest control. Reduce that electric bill by adding pest protection. It's that easy. Online at royalpestservices.com.
Men suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE, regardless of age or past medical history, you'll see instant results on your first visit at Prime Men's Medical Center. And for unlimited time, your consultation and first treatment are totally free. Call now 904-664-8217.
This 1010XL 92.5 FM hour is powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. Now. Another interview on the Farah and Farah phone line. Brought to you by the accident attorneys at Farah and Farah.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. The championship games have been decided. The Super Bowl is set. And we got a couple of new head coaches in the National Football League, including one there in Charlotte, North Carolina. With that, let's go to our man Mike Kay of the Charlotte Observer, formerly of First Coast News here in Jacksonville. Mike, I haven't talked to you since your move to Charlotte, man. Congratulations.
Hey, thanks for the hearty welcome. I've kind of been everywhere, man. Like at this point, it feels like Jacksonville was like 20 years ago, but really it's only been 5. So, I'm here in Charlotte after covering the Eagles for 4 years, and I got here kind of week 4 of this past season, and so it's been a whirlwind since I got here.
It has been a whirlwind, and boy, you get there just in time to see a coach get fired. You get there just in time to see a coach get hired, and you get there just in time to have a little controversy on top. So a media guy, that's just got to be unbelievable for you. Let's kind of start back with Matt Rule. What happened, Mike? Why did that not work with Carolina?
I think, I only covered him for 2 weeks, but I just kind of think the NFL wasn't much of a fit for him. He was a guy who was used to having that kind of college overarching control, and that's just not the way things really operate in the NFL outside of maybe New England. So, he made some poor personnel moves. They never nailed down the quarterback. He started in the middle of COVID, which kind of prevented him from really getting to know veteran players. I think there were some mishaps in messaging. I just think it just didn't work. I mean, there were so many things you could point to, none of which were probably the catalyst, but the quarterback position was probably the biggest one.
And amidst all that turmoil and all the losses that piled up and a coach getting fired, interim coach Steve Wilks had them controlling their own destiny with 2 weeks to go in the regular season before the season ended. Did not go well in the final weeks. But a lot of people thought Wilks was going to get that job, Mike, and when he did not last week, kind of raised some eyebrows a little bit. What was your thought on that whole thing?
Listen, I will tell you this. I've covered a lot of coaches in my career, and I have never seen a coach galvanize a locker room that quickly. He's a guy who's very transparent, very intense, but also very relatable. And I think he did a phenomenal job, frankly. I don't know what more he could have done to earn the job. I think it was just a matter of, David Tepper really wanted his offensive guy. This franchise has never had an offensive-minded head coach. And, he wanted somebody who could really develop a quarterback, take a quarterback by the hand, and really get him through. And I know Frank Reich has had a revolving door in Indianapolis, and it didn't work out very well for him. I think there's a belief, based on especially what he did in Philadelphia, that he can really get the most out of a young quarterback.
Mike Kay of the Charlotte Observer, Frank Reich, the brand new head coach with the Carolina Panthers. You know, it's interesting. I've seen a lot of people on social media, Carolina fans, and I even want to say maybe a media member or two up that way, that are making the comparison, is Frank Reich Carolina's Doug Peterson, with what Doug Peterson did here. Now, certainly Carolina doesn't have a Trevor Lawrence. We'll see what they do in the draft and what happens there. But is that the thought process, that you bring in a guy like Frank Reich who worked with Doug Peterson, and is that kind of the blueprint that Carolina's trying to follow?
I don't think it's like that. I think it's more of a Bruce Arians-esque thing. It's not like Frank Reich was a Super Bowl winner. He never won the AFC South, which you guys know is no, war zone. I think he's a guy who had some glimpses of success in his previous thing, and then the logic is that he's learned from a lot of his mistakes and can maybe get it right the second time around. We've seen that time and time again in the NFL with Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll, Andy Reid. I mean, there are guys that have success in their first stop, and then it's time to move on. In that second trial run, you get this success, and I think that's the way they view Frank Reich. I also think they knew that if they were not going to hire Steve, that they needed somebody who could be instantly relatable to the locker room. They needed someone who could be both a nurturer and a developer. And I think Frank kind of fits those molds. In a lot of ways, all things being equal, I do think the move makes sense. I don't think it's a very interesting hire. I don't know what the upside or his ceiling is, but I think they view this as a low floor because Matt Rule was an epic failure for David Tepper, and I think they're trying to kind of just get this project off the ground.
Of course, we're very familiar with Frank Reich from his days at Indianapolis. He's now the brand new head coach of the Carolina Panthers. Mike Kay of the Charlotte Observer here with us. Right now, Sam Darnold is the quarterback in Carolina. I can't imagine that's in the future plans. What is the thought process about getting a signal caller up there? Potentially any trades that could be worked out? Anything draft capital-wise, Mike? What's the idea going forward?
They have the 9th overall pick in the draft, which is not going to be good enough to land a top 3 quarterback in this draft, in my opinion. I know they really like Will Levis. I know prior to Steve Wilkes not getting the job, Anthony Richardson was being talked about. C.J. Stroud kind of fits the Frank Reich dynamic the best of the prospects, and I think in order to get him, you're going to have to trade into the top 3. So that's a situation that bears watching. I do think they'll bring in a veteran stopgap quarterback, somebody of the Jacoby Brissett or Gardner Minshew ilk that kind of knows the system. Gardner Minshew spent the last 2 years in Philly. Nick Sirianni is a protege of Reich. Maybe their language and their play calling is relatively similar, and maybe that's an easy transition. Jacoby Brissett obviously played for Frank for 3 years, and so he has an understanding of the offense well. I think that what they're going to try to do is build this team to win long term, which is, there are teams that start out the gate hot and then implode. Like Minnesota, to me, strikes me as a team that overachieved immediately. And I think O'Connell's a good coach, but I do think they're due for a massive regression next year. Then you have teams like the Jaguars and the Giants who really benefited from coaching. Maybe they don't have the most talented roster, but they had the guys who could get the most out of the roster. And then I think, Sirianni's a really good example of a team that kind of just took it in stride, to rebuild on the run. So there's plenty of ways that you can do that. They need help on all 3 layers of their defense. They need a quarterback. They need a wide receiver. I mean, there's a lot going on in Carolina. So, but I do think you can earmark that first pick for a quarterback right now.
Yeah, Jaguar former general manager Dave Caldwell did a solid job drafting for the Carolina Panthers because in the 2020 draft, C.J. Henderson went number 9, Laviska Shenault went number 42, and both guys have found their way to Charlotte, North Carolina. What about those guys, Mike? How have they performed, and are they in the future plans there?
My response would be, yeah, what about those guys? Listen, I think CJ is a guy who is like both ends of like the talent spectrum. At one point, you'll see him make an unbelievable interception. The next, you'll see him like give up a massive play. Like the overtime loss to Atlanta was wild. He went from making a potentially game-winning interception to then giving up the game-losing touch. Like or the game-tying touchdown. So there's that one's like an up and down experience. I think he's better off as a dime or sub-package player. I don't think that they're going to look for him to be a starter down the road. I think Dante Jackson's going to be the number 2 corner opposite Jason Horn. They're looking for a nickel corner. And then I think with Laviska, at least under McAdoo, they severely limited his route tree. Most of his stuff was behind the line of scrimmage. I think he ran like 5 to 10. If you know what the route tree is and the numbers, like I think he ran like 3 of the 9 to 10, general routes you can run. They didn't really have him run routes beyond 10 yards, which is very interesting. Kind of tells you maybe they thought that they didn't want to put too much on his plate, or they didn't think he was capable of getting separation down the field, which either way, that looks bad for the Panthers.
Yeah, we know all about that from his time here in Jacksonville. Good guy, but he was probably ready to move on, and the Jaguars were certainly ready to move on from him. Final moments with Mike Kay, the Charlotte Observer. Mike, you mentioned your time in Philadelphia covering the Eagles for NJ.com. Philadelphia back in the Super Bowl, taking on Andy Reid. Boy, what a storyline that's going to be over the next week and a half or so. Your reaction to Championship Sunday will begin with Philadelphia's dominance over San Francisco.
Well, the last time I didn't cover them full time and I was in Jacksonville, they won a Super Bowl. So history's on their side, I guess. Listen, I think the Eagles have done a very good job of utilizing their talent. I think they are the most talented and deep roster in the league by far. I think Nick Sirianni's a very good coach. I think what's been impressive is Howie Roseman only has 7 remaining guys from that Super Bowl team with Doug Peterson. One of them was a backup guard. Now he's a starter. And then 2 of them are specialists. So you have 4 starting players on offense combined on offense and defense from that past Super Bowl team. And this team does kind of feel like that 2017 group where they're just like dominating poor matchups. They've had a pretty easy road to the Super Bowl, but at least in the playoffs between the Giants and the beat up 49ers. And I think, look, the referees were clearly given a memo to over referee these 2 games, like damage control style. And so I think the Eagles took advantage of that. When you face a 4th string quarterback and then potentially the 3rd string quarterback again, who's got a major elbow injury, you're probably going to win that game. They got turnovers. Hassan Reddick continues to be the best free agent signing the league's seen since Tom Brady joined the Buccaneers. He had 16 sacks, and I think he has like 4 in the last 2 playoff games. So that's been special. I think, look, the Chiefs-Bengals game was all over the place. It literally had everything, right? And the better team, in my opinion, the Bengals were the better team, in my opinion, but I think when you have the better coaching and the better quarterback, that's the ultimate equalizer.
And finally, Mike, you spend so much time up in Philadelphia. Andy Reid, that's going to be probably the storyline, the Kelsey brothers as well. But to Andy Reid, I mean, how is he thought about in Philly? And certainly, boy, if Andy were to win another one, I think there's a real conversation there for where he sits in the pantheon of great head coaches in the NFL.
Well, my opinion, and from a personal standpoint, I think it's no secret that I grew up a Philly guy. And I will tell you, I gained so much knowledge and love for football listening to Andy Reid explain his scheme. And you get a little bit of that with Doug Peterson. I think he is the second best head coach of the modern era right now. I think from 1990 and on, I think Andy Reid is number 2 on that list. And I think in Philadelphia, there's a little bit of revisionist history. Like, yeah, he went to all those NFC title games, but he never won a Super Bowl. And so I think the younger crowd doesn't really appreciate what he did, but he really turned that franchise around. I think Jeffrey Lurie deserves a ton of credit for every single one of his 5 head coaches has won at least 10 games in their first 2 seasons, or had a 10-win season within their first 2 seasons. And I think Andy Reid really kind of has changed the game. I don't think he gets talked about with like the Shanahan offense as much as he should, but he's become the modern day steward for the West Coast offense, and he's continued to build it with Patrick Mahomes.
It is incredible what Andy Reid has done. 14 years in Philly, now 10 years in Kansas City. The guy just keeps going, and it is fun to watch. Mike Kay of the Charlotte Observer. Jacksonville sees Carolina next year, so we will certainly get Mike on during the offseason to see what happens as Frank Reich builds that staff and that Carolina Panther football team. Mike, appreciate it, man. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Hacker.
Find 1010XL on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram by searching 1010XL and follow the conversation on social media, because listening at the dinner table would be rude.
If you're still wondering why you should buy from Arlington Toyota, maybe this will help. How about peace of mind? When you buy any new Toyota from Arlington, their lifetime warranty goes with you. That's unlimited time and miles. Plus, there's Arlington's 30-day exchange program. That's 30 days to love your purchase or exchange it. And Arlington goes the extra mile by extending your Toyota Care coverage to 3 years or 36,000 miles. Now you know why you should buy from Arlington. Shop in person, 10939 Atlantic Boulevard, and online at arlingtontoyota.com.
Want to kick off the new year without any credit card debt? Sure you do. You can do it with Loan Pronto's Express Equity Line of Credit. Wipe out all those credit cards now. Prosser here. Rates are down, and this is a great move to get on more solid financial footing for the new year. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a portion of the equity you have and enjoy a rate that's a whole lot less than what the banks charge on credit cards. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. You can access up to 95% of your home's equity. Use that money. Pay off high-interest loans of any kind, credit cards, personal loans, car loans, whatever. Consolidate everything into one easy payment. Even if you did a total refi last year, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program and keep your main loan intact. So call Loan Pronto now, 904-999-1508. That's 904-999-1508. Also go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Mike Dempsey for Dandy Foods, and happy to report that Dandy has brand new goodies out there, only available at select gate locations. 4 delicious new lunch items to choose from. A hot roast beef and provolone, an Italian combo that'll melt in your mouth, spicy buffalo chicken, or a big old juicy 100% beef cheeseburger. They're all served on fresh ciabatta bread, baked locally and delivered daily, just as you'd expect from the folks that bring you fresh, never frozen goodness.
Got that hometown flavor creeping up on you, yeah.
Years ago, when Harrell & Harrell was growing, we had a decision to make whether we were going to grow into the state or even beyond. And we decided that we were going to stay here in this community in Northeast Florida. It's staying here and not looking at where's the next place that we can go or how can we get bigger, because bigger is not necessarily better. This is our home, this is where our families are, this is where our friends are, and this is where we're going to stay. Offices, Jacksonville.
Yeah, they're all women.
I can't believe we're doing this. This is the kind of thing they do in the movies.
It's a little different.
Does this work?
But relax, it's still a sports show.
Helmets and Heels.
Driven by Tire Outlet.
And presented by Underwood Jewelers.
Tuesday nights at 6.
On 1010XL.
Jacksonville has some junk, and J-Dog is removing it. They're here to do the dirty work. You don't want to remove and dispose of large furniture or appliances yourself? Call J-Dog. Here now, proudly serving you, removing junk from your home or business. They can even handle small demolition projects, and they're still donating local items to veterans in need. So let J-Dog do the dirty work for you. J-Dog Junk Removal. Veteran-owned and operated. JDog.com.
This is Keith Catlin for Catlin Truck Accessories, and we are so blessed to be in business for over 100 years. Over 100 years of the best product and customer service means you can count on Catlin. From Roll and Lock bed covers to Lear toppers to Cam Locker toolboxes, Catlin Truck Accessories has you covered when it comes to your truck or van. We do those too. Got a fleet of vehicles? We can outfit them all.
Who can you count on? Count on Catlin.
One name, one location, 100 years. You can count on Catlin.
Everybody's talking about regenerative medicine because people have joint pain and are getting real lasting relief without drugs or surgery. Leon Searcy here. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in exciting treatments. They use highly concentrated healing agents from your own body to restore and repair damaged tissues. If you're ongoing joint pain from arthritis or injury, you need to call QC Kinetics. Don't assume that steroids and surgery are your only option. Times have changed, and regenerative medicine can get you moving again with no downtime. Stop taking the pain meds and discover the remarkable alternative that pro athletes have been using for years. Thanks to QC Kinetics, this amazing treatment option is now available to folks like you and me who are sick and tired of joint pain. Don't put these off any longer. Spring is coming, and you want to enjoy all life has to offer. Call QC Kinetics now, 904-274-5522. Get a free consultation with local medical professionals. QC Kinetics, 904-274-5522, with locations in Mandarin and Ponte Vedra.
I'm John Haney, owner of Clearwater Irrigation. Can you believe the average homeowner spends over 5 hours a week of their valuable time pulling hoses? Then there are those who own a sprinkler system that makes no sense at all. It sprays here and there, but nowhere where you need it. Call us at Clearwater Irrigation and we'll design a system that makes sense to you.
Clearwater Irrigation. We can't sing a lick, but we sure are good at sprinklers.
And drainage, too.
ClearwaterJacks.com. This 1010XL 92.5 FM hour is powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. This is Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Thank you to my man Mike Kay of the Charlotte Observer for joining us tonight on Hacker After Dark. Frank Reich, the new head coach in Carolina. It appears there's about to be a new head coach in Houston. Could happen as soon as tomorrow or Wednesday. All signs point to 49er defensive coordinator and former Houston Texan linebacker DeMeco Ryans getting the job in Houston. Hard to believe that there are still head coaching openings. I mean, it is the 30th day of January. It is Senior Bowl week, and you still have openings in Indianapolis, in Houston, in Arizona. So I would think a lot of these openings are going to be filled probably by week's end would be my guess. I can't imagine them going too much longer into the month of February. And by all indications, DeMeco Ryans will be a very good hire. It's different. Remember, we're going to a lot of offensive coaching hires now. You look at the more successful coaches, a lot of them are on the offensive side of the ball. DeMeco Ryans, obviously a defensive guy, but that appears to be the direction that the Houston Texans are going. More on that as the week goes on, but let's talk a little Jacksonville Jaguars. Demetrius Harvey of the Florida Times-Union will join us. Let's look ahead to the Jaguar offseason. What did we learn yesterday watching Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes? You know, everybody assumes at Jacksonville the arrow's pointing up with Trevor. I believe it is. But my goodness, the competition in the AFC is going to be fierce for years to come. Let's talk AFC. Let's talk Jaguars. Let's talk free agency. It's only 6 weeks away. Demetrius Harvey of the Times-Union. He's next on a Monday night edition of Hacker After Dark here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Jaguars beat reporter Hayes Carline.
Oh, well, he's very popular.
Weekday afternoons on The Frangie Show.
They all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
On 1010XL.
You sounded like Dirty Harry just then.
92.5 FM.
Look around you. There's history being made. Has been. Will be. Just something about those blue skies. High banks and high speed, all coming together in one perfect race. And it'll be here sooner than you think. The Daytona 500 at Daytona International Speedway, February 19th, 2023. Get your tickets now at DayTona500.com.
January is always about new year, new me. But this year, instead of wasting money on workout equipment that will eventually be holding up clothes more than shedding fat, or a gym membership card that gets pulled out of your wallet way less than your driver's license, why not update that crusty kitchen sink faucet? Or maybe even splurge on a new throne for the bathroom. At Duck Duck Rooter, we are here to transform hapless New Year's resolutions into tangible plumbing upgrades to start the year off right. Contact them today, duckduckrooter.com.
To be our best selves, we need to take care of our whole self. That includes your spirit, mind, and your body. At the First Coast YMCA, our members find balance in spirit, mind, and body with unlimited group exercise classes, adult sports leagues, health coaching, and programs designed for chronic disease prevention. And if your resolution is to save money this month, we'll waive the join fee. Discover all the benefits of a Y membership and find your why at fcymca.org.
Brian and Angela Wall here with Window World. By now, everyone has heard about saving money on their energy bills. There are all sorts of things you can do to cut energy costs, but most people don't think about their windows.
But Window World knows that the biggest energy loss in almost every home is the windows. There is more energy loss from old builder-grade windows than just about anything else in your home.
You can upgrade your heating and air, your appliances, that's good too. But before you do all that, upgrade your windows to Window World's energy-efficient windows.
Window World's windows are easy to clean, energy efficient, and have the best guarantee in the business.
Window World's slogan is simply the best for less, and we mean it. You get great American-made windows, and you get to keep more of your money when you buy from Window World. Need any more reasons to buy your windows from Window World? Call them today and set up your free in-home estimate, or go online to windowworldneflorida.com.
Window World, simply the best for less.
Thank you for your business.
Window World also offers energy-efficient doors and siding.
Want to know what it's like to be inside the NFL huddle? I'm former Pro Bowl offensive lineman Leon Searcy. Listen for my stories doing Lunch with Leon, weekdays from noon to 1:30 on XL Primetime. Brought to you by Wingstop, where flavor gets its wings on 1010XL.
Attention golfers, Hidden Hills Golf Club has become an attractive destination for golfers all over North Florida. You too will enjoy our classic Arnold Palmer design that'll test your game and keep you coming back. Book a tee time today at hiddenhillsgc.com.
I'm Sophia Monahan. One day, my sister and I will take over for my dad at Monahan Jewelers. Monahan's is your local family jeweler, and we're having our Valentine's sale now.
That's right, Sophia. Our Valentine's sale is up to 30% off on all GIA-certified diamonds and up to 40% off store-wide with interest-free financing on all purchases. Diamonds, gemstones, engagement rings. Support your local family jeweler now through Valentine's with huge savings on our entire inventory. Take it away, Sophie.
Monahan Jewelers at Alente Beach.
Denny Thompson here for Tyson Sound and Security. Widespread adoption of home automation technology has made connectivity an affordable, expected standard in new home construction. But whether your home is new or not, you can have the same smart technology. Save energy by turning lights out remotely. How about the convenience of a home theater with one button or walking in your door with automatic lights? Use Tyson Sound and Security. Visit TysonSoundandSecurity.com. Tyson Sound and Security, security and automation experts.
Hey Googans, Hicken here, and now that the kids are back out of the house and the decorations have been put away, I can see it's definitely time to get my carpets and my sofas clean. That's where Zero Res comes in. Zero Res. They'll clean the carpets, the sofa, the chairs, area rugs, even tile and grout. Google Zero Res and see what your neighbors are saying about Zero Res with more than 5,000 five-star customer reviews. Right now, get 20% off carpet cleaning and 20% off upholstery cleaning. Zero Res, man. Spell it forwards or backwards. It's the right way to clean.
Are you looking for increased privacy and protection for your family and pets? Look no further than Superior Fence and Rail. Superior Fence and Rail is Jacksonville's top-rated fence company, delivering the highest quality fence products. They'll treat your property as if it's their own. So get off the fence and get your privacy back. Call Superior Fence and Rail today for your on-site estimates.
When you're on the fence, about a fence, SuperiorFenceandRail.com.
For 2 decades, Instant Keys has provided affordable, professional locksmith service. And as business grows, they've moved to a new location, Edgewood and 12th Street. Same quick service, same honest people. Instant Keys, now on Edgewood and 12th Street.
This 1010XL 92.5 FM hour is powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. Now,
hello.
Another great guest on the Farah and Farah phone line. Brought to you by the Accident Attorneys at Farah and Farah.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville We are glad you are with us. Championship Sunday in the books. We are now inside of 2 weeks till Super Bowl 57. There's also quite a bit of Jaguar news going on as well. With that, let's talk with Demetrius Harvey of the Florida Times-Union, always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Demetrius, how we doing, man?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Hey, Demetrius, we're good, man. Thank you for the time. And from a guy who just saw Kansas City up close and personal about a week and a half ago, you see what happened last night with Kansas City beating Cincinnati. What was your thoughts on the AFC Championship game? Certainly one for the ages.
Absolutely. It was a fantastic game. I mean, obviously, we saw Kansas City, what they were able to do with Jacksonville in terms of just being able to play within themselves. I think that the biggest thing is, even without the top wide receivers, Patrick Mahomes is still able to do what he does, and that's sort of what we saw last week too against the Jags, where, even though he had that, terrible ankle sprain, he was able to go in there and execute. It was just another sign of greatness from the Chiefs. And I think that, in that game, you saw two quarterbacks, hopefully for the Jaguars' sake, they're in that discussion next year and beyond. Those are the guys of the NFL, the guys of the AFC. And yeah, it was just a really fantastic game.
One thing that really jumped out to me, and I know I'm stating the obvious here, but watching Cincinnati and Kansas City, not just the quarterbacks, but the entire roster. Jacksonville better know that, I mean, they're good now, and things look like the arrow is pointing up, but that is some unbelievable competition in the AFC and will be for a long time.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, the talent level of not just the quarterback positions, but also both defenses, really young, fast linebackers. The secondary play was exceptional at times. I mean, you have to have both ends of the spectrum. The running backs, they weren't able to get going too much, but, over time we've seen all of those teams have more of a balance, set. So it's going to be interesting to see. The Jags have a long ways to go in terms of, being that consistent powerhouse like a Kansas City, like a Cincinnati now. And all it takes really is just a couple more playmakers, guys that can, once you get the ball in their hands, they can go, 60 yards, things like that. T. Higgins for the Bengals, and then obviously Kelsey. You can't necessarily match that, but you can have a guy who is that go-to player. I think that those teams both have it.
And Demetrius, it's interesting, too, again, Demetrius Harvey of the Times-Union. The Jaguars, I don't know how many times this has happened in team history, they played both Super Bowl teams. They played Philadelphia, lost 29-21 in Week 4, obviously played Kansas City twice in Week 10 and in the AFC Divisional Playoffs. So the Jaguars can definitely speak about both of these teams. You saw Philadelphia as well, just like we did. Now, that was a long time ago, but absolute domination. Now, I would pump the brakes because Kansas City went through Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow. Philadelphia went through Daniel Jones and a combination of Brock Purdy and Josh Johnson. So certainly Kansas City a little more tested, but nevertheless a dominating performance again by the Eagles.
Absolutely. Even in Week 4, I think many said it. I know I said it. The Eagles looked like the best team in the NFL, and they continue to show their dominance. But yeah, you're right. The 49ers didn't have a quarterback, pretty much the entire game. I mean that, and if you don't have a quarterback, you're not going to be able to win. But the Eagles just showed, defensively, offensively, they're able to run it through anybody. They're able to stop anything. It's going to be a really fun matchup, I think, for the Super Bowl.
Demetrius, I think last week was the hardest week for Jaguar fans. They've gotten through that now. Now you really begin to set your eyes on the offseason and what's going to transpire here. I mean, heck, free agency literally begins 6 weeks from today, so it's not exactly like you have a long amount of time to discuss these sort of things. Quickly, before we look at the offseason, boys, some good news for Jamal Agnew today. The Jaguars finally have a Pro Bowler. He was an alternate, but he gets in due to an injury in the AFC. So Jamal Agnew, officially now a Pro Bowler for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Absolutely, yeah. If there's anybody on the team that really deserved it, besides maybe Logan Cook or, you could probably argue Trevor Lawrence after all the guys sort of drop out, it was Agnew. He was a sensational player for the Jaguars, still is, and obviously during the postseason, he was pivotal to them. I know he had the fumble in the Chiefs game, but that was just a guy trying to make a play. I don't think it really defines him, especially not as a return specialist. But he made several plays even in that Chiefs game to help them get over the top. I think without him, they wouldn't have been able to score their first points of the game. There's certain things where you have to be able to at least look at a full body of work for him, and he's certainly that one. So get kudos to Jamal Agnew. I think that he deserves it. I'm assuming he was the first alternate behind Duvernay, or maybe the second alternate, who knows. But yeah, he was able to do what he did this year, and I think that next year they're going to expect even more.
Demetrius, it's a business, and we all know that. The roster certainly will not look the same when they return on April 17th. Let's begin with Jamal Agnew. There's at least been some conversation that I think the number's $5 million you could potentially save if you release Jamal Agnew. The Jaguars are projected $23 million over the cap, although a lot of that will go away simply by cutting Shaq Griffin, which is the expectation. Is a guy like Agnew, though, potentially in jeopardy of not coming back?
Potentially. You kind of look at the roster and you look at the receivers, and once you get to that fourth and fifth wide receiver, especially with Calvin Ridley coming in, you don't necessarily want them to have, such a big cap number. Agnew only has $5.8 million next year. You could save about 4.7 if you are to cut him. But I really think that he's so valuable to the team that I would just imagine they would want to, if not just hold on to him for the number that he's at, or just restructure or extend him. I just think that he's a guy that you can't really let go. There's not very many special return specialists available. With the kick returns, you don't really get too many of those in general because of the rules. But then also the punt returns, it's tough to find a guy who's able to do that on a consistent basis. So, for me, I would keep him. But absolutely, with the way the cap is sort of set up this coming year for the Jags, I could totally see them moving on in some capacity.
Demetrius Harvey of the Florida Times-Union here with us on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Certainly Agnew not the only guy that has a cap number that you could save some money if you release him. We've had the Rayshon Jenkins conversation, although I think that changed drastically over the last 2 months. He was probably the best defensive player they had over the last 2 months. I almost think at this point you have to do whatever you need to do to keep Rayshon Jenkins. Look, we've talked so much, Demetrius, and you and I will certainly hear about Evan Ingram and Jawan Taylor and Arden Key, but are there any other unrestricted guys that you think, yeah, they need to re-sign him? He's vital, whether it's an Adam Gostis, an Andrew Wingard, a Dan Arnold, a Chris Manhertz, anybody maybe that's not getting enough talk about right now that's set to hit the market in 6 weeks?
Yeah, I think Chris Manhertz is a guy actually that they should bring back, and they probably need to. He's one of the better, or one of the best blockers at the tight end position in the NFL. He's shown it. He showed it that this past season. I know the first year wasn't very good, but that wasn't really good for anyone. But what he's able to do as far as his leadership within the locker room, he's one of the most well-respected guys in that locker room. I think that there's definitely merit to bringing him back. He's going to be 31, I think, when the season starts. So he shouldn't command too big of a contract, but he's somebody that I don't think many people are talking about necessarily to bring back. Another guy, Dewan Smoot, I know most people talk about him, but he's coming off the injury. There was speculation on if they would let him walk or what's going to happen with him. But after the injury, it seems like it feels as though you would most likely be able to bring a guy like him back on a pretty team friendly deal. I don't like to sort of put it that way, but it's something where he got hurt and now they can kind of move around with the money, and depending on how he feels next year. He could earn more, but those two guys I think are vital to bring back, or would be good to bring back. Wingard, he's another guy who you could make a plan to bring back just because of his special teams ability, but I don't think he's necessarily a guy, if he gets a huge contract offer by some team as a starter, that you sort of get into a bidding war with.
Yeah, I would agree with that. My one thing with Andrew Wingard is this. you're right. If somebody gives him an opportunity to be a starter, that's different. But Andrew Wingard in Jacksonville, compared to, say, Andrew Wingard maybe getting $500,000 more to sign in Arizona or in Cleveland or name your city, I think Andrew Wingard's got to think about that, because the marketing opportunities he has here, everything he's got going for him here, would a couple $100,000 more in some other market mean that much? Wingard to me is a very interesting one because of how popular he is in the city.
Yeah. He's a guy who clearly is very fan friendly. Everybody loves him every time he gets in front of the camera, even if he doesn't really play on defense very much. Everyone wants to listen to him just because of the way he speaks. He gives us those classic catchphrases. Obviously, he came up with it was always the Jags and things like that. So yeah, I mean the marketing appeal for Wingard here in Jacksonville is probably huge compared to like a Cleveland or a Kansas City or Cincinnati, whatever. Because the fans know him, the players know him. I think he's a really good locker room guy as well. So. I think it makes sense for both sides to want him back. It just really depends on if a team wants to make him a starter.
A couple of more for Demetrius Harvey of the Florida Times-Union. All right, Demetrius, the three big ones. Let's start with the two guys that did those quote-unquote one-year prove-it deals, and I think they both proved it. Certainly Evan Ingram did. You can argue Arden Key did as well. Both guys, when they left the stadium last Monday, said they wanted to be back in Jacksonville. 6 weeks until free agency is set to begin on March 13th. Level of expectation for you. Who do you think is more likely to re-sign in Jacksonville, or is there a chance, a good chance both of them re-sign?
I think there's a chance both of them will re-sign, but I do think that Evan Ingram is probably higher on their priority list than Arden Key. I think that if you're going to re-sign Evan Ingram, the expectation for him probably will be to start at that Jonnu Smith contract that the Patriots gave out, which, I mean, you can argue if that was smart or not, but, they gave him $12.5 million per year. I think that's probably the baseline. I wouldn't expect anything less. I think he made around $9.1 million or something like that this season. Talking about Ingram. So it really depends on sort of the market for him, but I do think that, keeping him at around 13, something around there, would make sense. And then for Arden, he's going to be interesting to see because, 4.5 sacks, fun player. He was able to, cause havoc. I think that he was important to their defense this year, but is he a guy that you want to pay, $10 million a year? I don't necessarily think so. It's going to be interesting to see, what they will do. But I think absolutely Evan Ingram is a guy who's going to, be back next year.
And then certainly the big one's Jawaan Taylor. Now that's interesting as well because assuming Cam Robinson comes back healthy, and there's no reason to assume he's not, you still have Walker Little and his rookie deal for 2 years. And Jawaan Taylor is going to command a lot of money. He started every game over 4 years, had his best year as a Jaguar here in 2022. To me, that's one that could get dicey. And I guess the question is, if Jawaan leaves, is it as simple as just putting Walker Little out at right tackle?
Yeah, his value has skyrocketed. I would say that he's probably their most important player to bring back. I think that you bring back Jawaan, you have Cam. He only signed a 3-year contract, so you only have him for a couple more years. And so by the time he's a free agent after the 2024 season, you'll still have Jawaan. You'll have Walker Little, either if you want to extend him or what have you. I think that it just makes sense to bring him back. Obviously, the numbers have to make sense too. With Cam signing, I think for $18 million per year, you're going to have to probably match that, or if not, go higher. Depends on how his agent feels. But if they do end up letting him go, it wouldn't be the end of the world, depending on how Cam comes back from injury. I think it would be kind of quote unquote as simple as putting Walker at the right tackle spot, but you still have that question mark because Walker Little obviously didn't play his best game against the Chiefs, and then you don't really know how he will stack up against legitimate talent in the regular season and in the postseason at right tackle. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think that still their highest priority should be Jawaan Taylor. I think that the biggest asset for a team is their offensive line depth. And I think that they sort of made that known. Doug Peterson said, do you like Trevor Lawrence and in questioning, if getting his pass protection set up is important, and so it is. You like Trevor Lawrence, you want him to stay up. I think Juwan had a fantastic year pass protecting, so he should be the guy to come back over almost anybody.
And Demetrius, as we wrap up, to that point, I've gotten this question a lot. I'm sure you have as well, not to put words in your mouth, but if it is one or the other, you can only keep one of Juwan Taylor or Evan Ingram. Are you on the Juwan Taylor bandwagon there?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it just makes sense to me. And I appreciate Evan. He's a fantastic person, fantastic player. Obviously he's a great asset to the team, but at the end of the day, I think that right tackle position is more valuable. I think that you have that depth. I mean, we saw it against the Chiefs, for Cincinnati. Their offensive line depth wasn't as good, and so that hurt them, especially early on in the game. So absolutely, I think that bringing back Juwan should be a priority over Evan, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't want Evan back, obviously.
Demetrius, final question. Chris Jackson, the wide receiver coach, left to take the job at the University of Texas, same position. We know Jim Bob Cooter is in play, I guess, in Tampa. He interviewed last week for their OC position. Anything else we should be looking at as far as the staff goes over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I don't think there's much else in the works, at least from what I've heard. I haven't heard anything necessarily to suggest that anybody else would be leaving or could be leaving. Jim Bob Cooter obviously is a guy who, not many people would know exactly, during the season, because we don't really talk about those auxiliary guys other than, a Mike McCoy, the quarterback coach. So that was an interesting thing by the Buccaneers to want to interview him. I think that, he's had experience, and that was sort of what they were going for. For Chris Jackson leaving, he's a guy who obviously, did well this season. The Jaguars receivers were one of the best units on the team. Everybody talked about them every week. Christian Kirk, had a career year. Zay Jones had a career year. Marvin Jones did pretty well himself. So it's going to be a little tough to replace a guy like him, but I don't think it's necessarily the position of, oh man, if you don't have a good wide receiver coach, you're doomed, But I think one of the names to watch, and I've heard this name, David Culley, obviously the former Houston Texans head coach. He sat out last year after being fired. But, he's had plenty of experience. I think 26 years of experience in the NFL as a receivers coach. He's coached with Doug Peterson with the Eagles for some time, and then obviously with the Kansas City Chiefs as well. So I think he's a name that makes sense, and that could be something to watch this week sometime.
Demetrius Harvey of the Florida Times-Union, always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Demetrius, appreciate it, man. Thank you as always. We'll talk again soon.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
And thank you to Demetrius Harvey of the Florida Times-Union for joining us tonight here on Hacker After Dark, as we are over a week removed from the Jaguar season coming to an end. 6 weeks from tonight, free agency. Some issues on the coaching staff. Got to find a new wide receiver coach to replace Chris Jackson, who left to go take the wide receiver coaching job at the University of Texas. Also, Jim Bob Cooter, the Jaguar passing game coordinator, has interviewed for the vacant offensive coordinator job in Tampa. We will see if anything materializes out of that. But again, thank you to Demetrius Harvey of the Florida Times-Union. Thank you to Mike Kay of the Charlotte Observer, formerly here in Jacksonville back in the day with First Coast News. Mike now covering the Carolina Panthers. Really enjoyed his perspective on Frank Reich becoming the new Panthers head coach late last week. What former Jaguars C.J. Henderson and Laviska Shenault are doing up there and how they're doing up there in Charlotte. And, of course, Mike just left the Philadelphia Eagles beat. He was with NJ.com, so enjoyed talking to Mike about the Eagles as they are once again NFC champions, and they will play the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl 57 out in Glendale, Arizona, coming up in 13 days. And as always, in hour number one, it's Monday Night Coaching with Campo. My man Dave Campo, former head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. He's always kind enough to join us here on Mondays on Hacker After Dark. We'll be back tomorrow night on a Tuesday. Are you kidding me? Our late night show. Where else would you rather be on a Tuesday night from 10 o'clock to midnight than right here with Dylan Denmark and yours truly? And we hope that you do join us then. Dylan Denmark was your producer tonight. Dylan, great job as always. I'm the hacker Ryan Green. In Jacksonville, thank you for spending part of your Monday evening with us right here on Hacker After Dark on 1010XL and 92.5 FM. So for all of us here on HAD, have an absolutely terrific remainder of your Monday, and we will do it all over again on a Tuesday beginning at 10 o'clock. Until then, good night, Jacksonville.
Great weather.
Check.
Great city.
Check.
Great sports talk for great people.
Check.
1010XL.
You know, I gotta get one of these.
Jacksonville Sports Radio.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. Okay, easy now. You're teaching your kid how to parallel park. Ouch! Turns out he likes to do it by feel. Don't worry, eBay Motors has bumpers, taillights, trunk lids, license plate holders, 122 million parts. Pull up just a little bit. And headlights. They've got lots of headlights. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors. Let's ride.
Nothing's too good for friends. That's why when you're headed to a buddy's house, swing into Circle K for some ice-cold brews and make sure it's Bud Light. From the big 25-ounce cans to